Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Welcome to prayer. Okay. Remember last week I said that we were going to learn something that was going to take us higher, whatnot, and so I've been looking all week for something that, and so I felt this morning when I was just still trying to find something, the Lord said, Kathy, you need to know the basics before you start going higher. So that's what I felt. So anyway, I'm gonna that might just be for me, but I can't teach something that I don't know. So anyway, Lynn Hammond does some wonderful, their Seed Faith little blog type things, and I get a lot out of her stuff. So I found this one, and it's called Your Greatest Opportunity, and it talks about going higher, and it answers some of my questions. Okay. So it said back in 1980, in the 80s, she wrote, she did some teaching or preaching, and she had a tape, and one of her friends was telling her what she had said back in the 80s, and she said it really blessed her, and she said it reminded her of what she had said. And in that teaching, she said, at the time she was talking to the Lord about giving opportunities to move up into higher places with Him. So she was teaching on that. And she said He's always giving us opportunities to mature and to expand spiritually. If we take them, then we go into greater places. But if we don't, then we won't go into greater places. So there's something that we have to do. We have to take that opportunity that God gives us. And He gives us opportunities each and every day, she says. So I'm missing a lot of opportunities, right? Because she said He gives them to us each day, and it is in the opportunity to spend time with Him. So we can go higher in Him just by spending time with Him daily, and He gives us opportunities daily to go higher. Think of it. Every day you have an opportunity to go higher in God. And I never thought of that before. So every day we have that opportunity. And you don't have to wait for a prophet to come and give you a word.
Yep.
You don't have to wait for an anointed pastor to speak a revelation out to you. You have all that you need when you go to Him and spend time in fellowship with Him. So it says we are to tend to the basics. So this really spoke to me. So, as prayers, we have to watch ourselves. We have to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that the church at Ephesus made. And that mistake was they got prideful. They got what she calls too important. They got too big for their spiritual britches. So we don't want to be like them. And we have to be careful as we go higher in God. And our prayer anointing and assignments increase that we don't get too big for our spiritual britches. Because we can get prideful and think that we're too important to tend to the basic things. So this was speaking to Kathy, this here. And it's very true. Like, we have to do the basics before we can do other stuff. If we don't make sure that, we have to make sure that we don't start thinking that we've outgrown the need to simply draw near to our Father. Right? That's the important thing that we have to do. And that personal relationship that we have with Him. Because if we don't, we lose that place. And we become like the church at Ephesus. We fall from heights that we've already attained. That loss might not just show up in our prayer life at first. It might show up first in our day-to-day living. And our dealings with other people. As praying people, we ought to be the kindest, the most gentlest, the most loving in the world. We ought to be growing daily in the picture of 1 Corinthians 13.
Ouch.
If we're truly walking in a place of power with God, we'll be patient, we'll be kind, we won't won't be jealous or prideful.
Right.
We'll be considerate of the feelings of others. We won't be rude. We won't insist on our own rights or our own way. We won't be touchy. We won't be fretful or resentful.
Ouch.
And we'll hardly even notice a suffered wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome.
And we'll always believe the best of everybody.
Yeah.
Always.
Right?
Yep.
So let's check up on ourselves.
Ouch.
I think we just did. Ouch.
Are we more
Right.
loving in our relationships with our family and our friends
Oh my.
than we've been in the past? Are we growing in the fruit of the Spirit?
I'm in the dark.
Are we abounding more and more in love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faith? If not, we're fooling ourselves.
Yeah.
And we think we're growing more powerfully in prayer if we aren't. Although she wrote back in 1993, she wrote a book that is called The Master is Calling. The Master is Calling.
Oh, yeah.
And in the front of that book, she wrote this, and it's called Changed in His Presence.
Yes.
She said, you might have read it if you've read that book, but she said, it will bless you. So I'm going to just read it. She says, this is what the Lord spoke to her and said, I said, you'd be changed in my presence, saith the Lord. If you have not experienced change in your life, if your old ways are still prevailing, if the old man is still in evidence, you have not spent the time with me that I desire.
That's true.
It isn't a matter of self-control or disciplining our flesh with no help from me. And sometimes we tend to do that, try to discipline ourselves and use self-control, but it's not, and we do it without help from Him. God said that you spend time in my presence, you'll be changed. Your old man will begin to pass away, and your new man will begin to rise up in the image of my Son. Your life will begin to bear much fruit, and the evidence of your walk with me will change as a result of spending time in my presence. If you're having trouble getting rid of the old habit, if you're having trouble with your marriage, if your family relationships aren't changing, you're not spending enough time with me. That would enable that change to come to pass. Your desire and the motivation of your heart to walk uprightly before me is a product of becoming so close to me that you do not want to bring hurt to him, to me. In natural relationships, when you love someone, you want to do the right thing for them. You don't want to hurt them. Well, as you spend time with me, God, as you spend time in my presence, we'll develop a relationship that is so close. It's closer than any earthly relationship, and it will shape the pattern of our living. You'll want to conform to your ways to my word simply because it's the desire of your heart. Your life will change, and it will be a product of your spending time with me. And then she just said, until I write you again, keep falling in love with Jesus through fellowship with him, and remember you're deeply loved. So God only wants us to grow up, to get into higher places, and there's things that we have to do. And I'm not picking on anybody or whatnot. It might not even pertain to you people, but it spoke to me, and it sort of put me in my place that I'm always looking for going deeper and higher, but this is, we have opportunities every day.
Every day.
Yep, every day to do that. So that's what I have tonight.
That's good.
I know it's
Awesome.
short. It's a lot of deepness there to it.